Set in a boxing gym building, an amateur boxer named Samir is seen training to hone his talents in order to become a professional boxer.
Go!
While the training was going on, suddenly a group of thugs appeared out of nowhere and attacked all the athletes inside the building. Samir, who was ignited by emotion, finally did not remain silent and was forced to get involved in the fight. As a result of the incident, the French police sent Samir to prison.
Et toi et le peuple des murs.
Meanwhile, the coach seemed to deeply regret Samir's involvement, who had to be in prison in the midst of his career, which was climbing towards the level of a professional boxer. After serving several months of probation, Samir was released on the condition that he not be involved in any criminal activity.
Vraiment vous y conforter, c'est important pour la suite de la mesure. Très bien. Merci.
On the way, Samir was approached by two young men who were his former gang mates when he was still working as a drug dealer. The two young men delivered a message from their boss, who offered Samir another job as a drug courier. However, Samir politely declined the offer. Samir preferred to work on a construction project.
T'as bien bossé.
After work, Samir walked home on foot. However, on the way, he was approached again by the two young men who had previously met him. They asked him to come along with their boss, FARANG. Suspecting that there was malicious intent behind this pickup, Samir immediately rushed to escape. Five years pass, and the story moves to a fishing village in Thailand. After an incident that accidentally killed one of the thugs, Samir decided to flee France and chose this place to start a new life. During his stay in Thailand, the villagers welcomed Samir warmly. He worked on the side as a fisherman. Although his income was insufficient, at least he could continue living his days in peace and quiet. On the other hand, Samir is now married. He married a local woman named Mia, and they have a beautiful daughter named Dara. In addition, Samir also works as a tour guide at a hotel, picking up and dropping off foreign tourists from the airport and taking them to the hotel where he works. Besides working in hospitality and as a fisherman, Samir sometimes participates in Muay Thai martial arts contests near his home. With a background as a boxer, Samir has an advantage in matches. He can adapt quickly and read his opponent's movements, so his still strong talent makes it easy for him to defeat the Muay Thai fighters he faces. This made a gambler named Sambat happy, as he liked to place bets on the matches. When the second match started, as usual, Samir dominated again. However, this time, he was forced to give up on his opponent because behind the scenes, Sambat and the match organizers wanted Samir to lose, with the promise of 3 times the usual payout. Samir's coach, Hansa, a Thai Muay Thai legend, regretted Samir's decision. However, it is known that Samir was forced to do so to earn money to fulfill his wife Mia's wish of buying a piece of land on the beach.
Nice defeat, man!
Look at this. All because of you.
Thanks, bro.
No problem.
Long story short, after getting the money, Samir and Mia visited the land office to organize the process of purchasing their dream land. However, due to Thai regulations that make it difficult for foreigners to own land, their process was hampered. Mia explained that she was the daughter of a French father, Samir's home country. Despite her efforts to explain, the officer continued to make it difficult, so their application could not proceed. The problem was further complicated when the landowner suddenly increased the selling price.
มีปัญหานิดหน่อยนะเจ้าของเนี่ยเขาโทรมาบอกว่าเขาไม่มาละมีคนที่ให้ราคาดีกว่าคุณ
Seeing the disappointment on Mia's face, Samir tried to calm her down and promised that he would keep trying to earn extra money to get to their dreamland. In the evening, Samir visits Mia's workplace to ensure she is okay and to discuss the land issue with Sambat. During this conversation, Sambat informs him that the owner of the land is a very dangerous local gang leader. Even so, Sambat is willing to help bring Samir and the landowner together. The gangster chief turned out to be Narong, a French descendant who had lived in Thailand for a long time. Meanwhile, the white-haired man accompanying him is Kasem, Narong's main bodyguard. Both seem to know Samir's intentions from Sambat. At first, Narong remained stubborn and unwilling to lower the price of his land. However, after learning about Samir's job of regularly delivering foreign tourists to the airport, Narong finally agreed to give Samir a chance under one condition. Samir had to be willing to smuggle a package of drugs for him. Of course, this was a very difficult decision for Samir. On the other hand, Samir also wanted to make his wife, Mia, happy. He has no choice but to accept Narong's offer without telling Mia first, to surprise her.
On est pareil, toi et moi. Prends le temps de réfléchir. Mais c'est pas grand-chose que je te demande.
Finally, at the appointed time, Samir carried out the action. He carried the package of drugs while delivering the tourists. Apparently, Narong had sent one of his men to disguise himself as an airport officer to help Samir, hoping the action would go smoothly. However, who would have thought that real airport officers would become suspicious of their movements? As a result, something unexpected happened. After successfully escaping from the airport, Samir was forced to leave behind the package of drugs he was carrying. When he arrived home, he realized his failed decision had triggered a major problem. Narong would surely hold him responsible for this failure. Realizing the situation, Samir immediately asked his family to leave. Luckily, Samir managed to save himself by jumping into the water. He was eventually rescued by someone who turned out to be Hansa. Samir finally woke up after receiving traditional medicine treatment from Hansa. In a semi-conscious state, he saw Mia's shadow from behind the darkness, as if asking Samir to avenge her death.
You haven't eaten anything for 2 weeks.
A few days later, Samir came to Sambat's house after his condition had recovered. Samir's arrival certainly surprised Sambat, because everyone who heard about the massacre had thought Samir was dead. In fact, the local police had closed the case. However, with a photo of his wife, Samir still hoped that his daughter Dara might still be alive, and he was determined to find her. Samir's first step was to meet a cafe waitress, where he inquired about Narong's whereabouts. The waitress informed him that Narong frequented a bar and advised Samir to look for him there. Long story short, night fell. Samir immediately went to look for Narong at the bar in question. There, Samir met a woman who was interested in him, and they easily gave him information about Kasem, who was at Narong's prostitution center. Upon arrival, Samir saw the faces of the perpetrators involved in the massacre of his family. Wasting no time, he angrily dispatched them until no one was left. Just then, Samir received news that his daughter, Dara, was still alive and had been taken by someone.
Go to Bangkok, Chinatown.
Fiamsa! She's alive! She's in Bangkok!
Setelah itu, mereka pergi ke Bangkok dan langsung pergi ke bar Narong.
Upon arrival, they were immediately confronted by Narong's men. Finally, Samir obtained information about his daughter's whereabouts from Narong's men, who said that Narong was now in a factory on the beach. Long story short, they arrived at the location, and Hansa stood guard outside the factory to distract the workers and Narong's men who were on guard. Little did they know the old man in front of them was a Muay Thai legend. Meanwhile, Samir continued to walk into the factory, hoping to find Dara there. He asked an employee who looked cynical and ignorant, but was still willing to take him into the building. Inside the building, dozens of girls are forced to stuff drugs into shrimp stomachs and package them. However, Dara was nowhere to be seen. This made Samir even angrier. His anger peaked until he went berserk again. Narong had already learned of Samir's arrival and mobilized dozens of his men to confront him. But Samir did not flinch in the slightest. His anger only added to his adrenaline, which made him return to slaughtering them one by one. After a desperate struggle, Samir finally arrived at Narong's room with his body covered in wounds. There, the real reason was revealed. As it turns out, Narong had set him up on the orders of Farhan, who still held a grudge against Samir for killing his younger brother 5 years ago. More surprisingly, Narong got all the information about Samir from Sambat, who was tempted by the lure of some money. However, despite his actions, Sambat still has a conscience. He chose to save Dara, who seemed scared after seeing how dangerous Narong was. After that, Narong didn't realize the big mistake in his calculations and tried to finish Samir off with his own hands. But as it turned out, Samir could strike back and kill Narong.
Farad n'a toujours pas digéré la mort de son frère. C'est toi qu'on voulait. Farad t'a fait chercher par Kasem pendant 5 ans.
There, Hansa lay in critical condition, losing a lot of blood. And finally, he slowly breathed his last. The next day, Samir continued his search to find his daughter. He went to Sambat's new restaurant, where Sambat pleaded guilty and was ready to suffer the consequences of his greed. Already aiming a gun at Sambat's head, Samir suddenly hears Dara calling out to him. He immediately drops his gun and hugs his daughter tightly.
Wait. I didn't mean for it to happen like this. Fucking shoot me!
Unfortunately, Sambat was unable to hold back his guilt. In the end, he chose to commit suicide,